What's up, guys? Tim from Deep Stage Tuning here. I know everybody's trying to get their winter projects together and make it to the track this spring, and I know our first track day is coming up here pretty quick. We ran into an issue on the shop vet that I think is pretty important to talk about. Unbeknownst to us, obviously it wasn't something that you research until you run into the problem, but the flex plates on the 14s, 15s, and 16s had some pretty serious issues. It causes thrust in the crank and absolutely trashes a thrust bearing. Now, we had this happen once before, and we just kind of chalked it up to an installation fault of some sort, not measuring the shaft play or the crank play or anything like that. But apparently I've got a piece right here for you to look at. Now, this is the flex plate out of the car. Now you can see everything is riveted here. There's a rivet here, and then there's rivets on the outside. Now, if you can see, and it's kind of hard to tell right here, but you can see that it is out of center. Now, we measured this, and it is 2.5 millimeters out of center now. And when we did our last start, we noticed there was a little bit of a rattle, so we pulled it out. And we also had changed out to a solid torque tube, no couplers whatsoever, just one big solid piece. We don't know if that's actually what helped contribute to the problem or not, but as we went forward, we noticed that this was something that was definitely a problem. Oil pressure was perfect. Made one real quick hit, just hit the gas for just a second to break the tires loose, let off the gas. By the time we got it into the parking space, oil pressure had dropped to 8 PS. And as you can see here, this is a situation that the crank was thrust forward, grabbed the thrust bearing, and literally spun it out of place. Now, when we got this apart, it took all we could do to get it to spin back. So that's not what we were expecting at all. Also, when we took it apart the first time, we were thinking that it was an installation error, because when we released the coupler on this flex plate, the crank literally snapped back into place, and it moved a good millimeter and a half. Doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but that's enough crank play to trash a thrust bearing, which is exactly what it did last time as well. Obviously, you start digging into the side of a thrust bearing, and it puts metal through the crank and all the journals and stuff like that. Now, there wasn't a whole lot of damage on the last one, so we just turned the crank over and went on about our business. Put new bearings in it, put it back in, and well, now this happened. Now, this is definitely something that needs to be paid attention to for anybody doing any kind of modifications to the vehicle. The service bulletin is something that GM has announced. The C7 early models did have a flex plate issue. They would absolutely come apart. Those rivets would slide along, and that would cause issues with that thrust as well. Bone stock cars do it, so I could imagine that performance vehicles would do it as well. This is obvious in our build here. Now, we've got an L8T that we have bored out to a 427, bored and stroked it. And then we've got, as you can see in the disassembly pictures, our Magnuson 2650, running about 15 pounds of boost. Now, with 15 pounds of boost and everything there, we're probably between 800 and 900 horsepower. We haven't gotten a solid pull on the dyno yet because the tires come unglued on it. But I wanted to bring this issue to everybody's attention that is working on C7 Corvettes. If you have a customer and you're taking things apart, go ahead and replace that flex plate because it's just a good idea, especially when you know that it can be having problems. You know, if you're going to do a cam swap, anything like that, you're going to have it open, or you're going to do a torque converter where that torque tube's coming out anyways. Go ahead and swap it out. It's just a good idea, and it's good preventative maintenance to keep you from eating your motor like we have. Now, this is our second time of having to rebuild it because of the thrust issue. So it's time consuming and it keeps us away from testing, but we will be out on the track this year, and we are on the quest for mid-8s. We'll see what we can do. There's going to be a lot going on. We've got port injection on it as well, so it can go back on the E85 instead of having to run MS109 all the time. Now, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a shout out or give us a like. Follow us for any further tech that you may have. Like I said, we always answer questions if you have them.